What up, what up? Welcome to another episode of New Orleans Basketball. As always, I am your host, Raphael Rattler, joined by my fellow middle brother, Garrick Raphael Rattler. It's good to see your face, bro. I feel like it's been too long.
It has been, man. Offseason will do that to you. Life will do that to you. Things will do that to you. I gotta say though, I gotta tell you, I'm very much enjoying the offseason beard. I'm a fan of it. I'm a fan of it. As a fellow bearded man myself, I appreciate a good beard. So nah, man, I'm all good. It's crazy. You know, you look out in the tropics and there's like 7 hurricanes, and it's just like, you know, my generation, man, we going through some of these first, bro, and I ain't signed up for this. So you know, I'm trying to stay dry, trying not to worry too much about that, but you know, got preseason football, Saints playing, so you know, we're getting back into the swing of things. Shout out to the W. The Aces and the Liberty had a fantastic.
Man. Tell me about that experience, man. You got to go down there to Vegas and check out that game. Was that the third time they played this season?
Yeah, man. So apparently they played in the Commissioner Cup Challenge Tuesday, last Tuesday, and you know the Liberty been taking it to the Aces. You know, Candace Parker's hurt and everything, but the Liberty been taking it to the Aces. You know, in a couple of back-to-back games, but. You know, Asia and Chelsea and Kelsey all put it on their back, and you know they was able to get a win. So you know, it was a fantastic experience. I enjoyed it. It was quite the atmosphere. I think the Aces have a great home court advantage. It's in the middle of a hotel, in the middle of a casino, which is, I mean, has to be unique to the WNBA and until the NBA gets out there. But man, it was an exciting event. You know, I'm just a hoop junkie, so I love the good basketball that I got to watch. So, but no, man, I'm in off-season mode. I'm enjoying the little sports that we getting as they trickle in as far as the NFL and FIBA and NBA go. So I'm good on this end, man. How's everything on your end?
Everything is blessed. I did some traveling myself, and yeah, it feels like that right time of year where you start to see a couple more people wearing their Saints, their Pelicans. Like, it's starting to get to that point of the year where people feel good about themselves, and it's not 150 degrees outside every single day. So before we get too far into the show, make sure you guys follow us on IG, on Twitter, on TikTok, on X, whatever you want to Threads, whatever you want to call it, at NO Basketball. There's no E. Make sure you're liking the episode below. That's what keep the bills going. And subscribe to the channel, New Orleans Basketball. So in between the last time we talked and now, the Pelicans schedule dropped. The NBA schedule dropped. The Pelicans only have 12 nationally televised games this year. I think it was kind of interesting how the NBA decided, and you know, to their credit, they're trying to cut down so much travel. They're trying to cut down on scheduled maintenance days so that people are always on TV for the nationally televised games and things like that. And so what you see with that is you see more back-to-backs that come from that, but also back-to-backs with the same team. Like twice this season, the Pelicans played Dallas 2 times in a row, both at home and away. And there's other scenarios like that. And so I think that's cool. But like with 12 nationally televised games for a team that contests that holds Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson, push them aside. Jose Alvarado, Trey Murphy, Herb Jones, like names that people are starting to recognize. Do you think that's too much? Do you think it's too little? Do you think that's right where it fits because this is what you get for messing up our nationally televised game?
Yeah, first of all, don't let Tim McMahon and them talk here that you say 12 nationally televised game because they only consider 6. They don't consider the NBA TV nationally televised because it's simulcast, right? They take the Pelicans broadcast and just put it on NBA TV as opposed to like them bringing the crew down. So there's that. So I mean, listen. The Pelicans are the Lamborghini in the driveway that like you want to drive it and you want to showcase it all. But sometimes when you drive it, it get a little bumpy, like the tire get a little flat or whatever. and it's got an expensive maintenance problem. And so that's the Pelicans, right? Like they have all of this phenomenal talent, all of the name, like you said, the recognizable names that you would want to kind of push out into, the NBA, especially to like the casual fan when you talk about Zion and Jose and not on Herb and Trey's personality. The way he's, kind of gravitational as far as like eyes and attention on him. So, I mean, listen, that is what you want to push to the team, to the casual fans. But at the same time, man, like, we talk about it as far as like Miss Gale talks about it, right? Like you have to show us, right? You put Zion on TV, the Pelicans on TV expecting to see Zion. And how many times last year were we watching Herb Jones versus Luka Doncic on ESPN or, and something like that. And it's just part of the part of what you have to go through. And so when you're not one of these big market teams, or, with like the Lakers and the Celtics and the Knicks and, teams like that, or you don't have like the transcendent talent that's either not known or is the gold standard, right? When you talk about Wemby as the unknown, everybody wants to see Wemby, before the Spurs start being Spurs and lose games. That's why they get to, the games on TV. And then you have the Luka Doncic's, the Jason Tatum's, guys who have been available for these big time games and have shown up on these big time games. So listen, the 6, nationally televised games outside of the NBA TV games, I think, it's not enough for the talent that's on the team. But when you've missed so many games and have put some of the product that you've seen on, and listen, the Pelicans have been good without Zion, good without Brandon Ingram, right? Like not awful, not like
at times.
Down. yeah. Well, yeah, but like they've competed on national TV, right? You see competitive games is what I mean. But you still missing what you're coming there for, right? Zion and Brandon Ingram and guys. So, this is what you deal with the Pelicans. When the Pelicans show the NBA that they can put a consistent team out there that is healthy, they'll get more, right? They have the talent, they have the names. But I think this is about right for where the Pels are right now.
Right. I'm also interested to see like how the in-season tournament plays out, like not from like what it looks like on a basketball court, but more so like how the fans digest it. Like, are we gonna get to that part of the year and be like, oh, this is the in-season tournament, or are we just gonna watch the games and just not recognize that there's an in-season tournament going on?
I think they're gonna like really push it, right? Especially when you have I think the NBA is really gonna push it. I think a couple of those games that the Pelicans will be on TV for probably will be some of the in-season tournament games, and I think that they're gonna push it, right? They're gonna try to market this thing because they need something else to kind of, like we always talk about. This is the kind of the window where the NBA can capture a lot of the market, right? Because the NBA is always in the headlines, and you have these stars like Wemby and guys like that from across the world.
It's an international game, yeah.
Right. And so now this is the time to capitalize on that market. And so I think they'll push it so that they can make the in-season tournament a thing and get the younger superstars to kind of buy in on this so that they can get a better paycheck and get that salary cap raise. The more eyes on the game, the more money that they make.
Right. I agree as well. I think, the differences between like the NBA and the NFL is you see the schedule release and immediately people are like, well, the Saints going to get 9 wins, 10 wins, 11 wins based off of quarterbacks and things like that. It's a little bit harder in the NBA because you don't know who's going to be playing. And so like, it's tough whether it's a scheduled rest day or whether someone is actually injured. My bet, though, is that the Pelicans end up with more nationally televised games than 6 due to the flex scheduling and things like that. But something that you do want to take a look at when it comes out to the schedule altogether and things like that, the Pelicans start with 10 of their 15 games at home in the Smoothie King Center. Like, on paper, you would be like, that is a fantastic thing. Like, get off to a hot start, build some wins. But for a team that is still figuring themselves out and the fan base is on the edge of their seat, like, are you going to build a winner? I think it might be a little tougher to win at home just to start because so many expectations are you better win this game. You should be winning this game. Everybody is healthy. Everyone's available. You should be winning. So, like, what are your thoughts on, like, do you think that that's a advantageous situation, Or do you, because knowing that you're going to have to make up for it with a bunch of road games? Or do you think it's one of those things where it doesn't matter?
I think it's an advantageous thing. I do. I think, with this team, we with all of the injuries and all of that, one of the things that, we've harped on this, they have to get some camaraderie on the floor, some chemistry on the floor, because they haven't played a lot. And listen, the old adage is that, you go on the road and you get locked in and you become that. But I think that there is something to getting the confidence up, from the guys at home. But with that Smoothie King Center, as loud as it's going to be and as crazy as it's going to be, especially with Zion and, coming back and being healthy, and Jose as well. I think, hopefully, right. I think that you're gonna get a really big boost from those guys, and I think you want to have more of the tougher game. Obviously, you want to be able to capitalize as long as everybody's healthy, right? Early in the season, get as many wins as you can while everybody's available. But I think that there is something. We saw Brandon Ingram kind of put the team on his back when he needed to at the most, right, last season, in a couple of road games, right? That game against Houston, the game against the Clippers in LA where he and Trey Murphy turned. I think that there is some, like, if you're going to be successful, you have to win on the road. So get some confidence, get some chemistry on the floor at home in the comforts of your own home, and then take that on the road towards the end of the season where, you can forge yourself and get some of that chemistry and that road bond that everybody talks about, and then push forward into the hopefully the playoffs at that point. So I think it'll be advantageous. You want to see this team get some time on the floor, and I do think there is something to playing on the road. But I think at being at home and having that crowd behind you, you get those juices flowing a little bit more. That ball pops a little bit more. Those shots fall a little bit more. And then you get that early in the season, and hopefully, it permeates throughout the rest of the season.
Right. I tend to agree because, again, you look at the first start, like, man, that's a decent slate to start off at home. And so then I immediately go to the end of the schedule like, how does the season finish? But after the All-Star break, they're about the same. They got 14 home games, 13 road games. But the end of the season, 4 out of their 5 games are on the road. And their final game is versus that dreaded black or purple and gold team, the Lakers. So if there's anything to play with, and something tells me the end of this season is going to be an electric one. Like, a lot of people are going to be fighting for spots that are 7, 8, 9, 10. Like, that is going to be a battle, I think, of attrition. That I don't think it's going to be hey, this team is resting this team. I think people are going to have to play their guys to finish the season. So it will be important and interesting to kind of monitor there. What's a stretch of games? Again, like, you can't really look at the schedule and say, oh, there's going to be hard because you don't know who being played. But, like, on paper, what's the schedule of either road games or home games that jumps out to you like, that's going to be an interesting set of games?
Well, I'm gonna start with the road games in January. I think that there's a stretch in the road games, right? So on January 7th, the Pels go to Sacramento, right? Then they do the California swing, right, where you play Sacramento, then you play Golden State on the 9th, and then you go to Denver on the 12th, and then you come back to Texas and play Dallas back to back on January 13th. And January 15th. That is a hell of a slate. You're talking about De'Aaron Fox, Pelican killer De'Aaron Fox. It's a bonus. You're talking about, obviously, the Warriors and their tradition and that bad man Steph Curry. You're talking about the champions and the back-to-back MVP, probably should have been 3-time MVP, and Nikola Jokic, and then Luka in the house that Dirk built, back-to-back. I listen, if the Pelicans, we're talking in January, right? If the Pelicans want to do anything this season, that is a stretch where you have to take the reins, right? You have to take the reins and you have to show that you're here and you're dominant, and that's a stretch. So if the Pelicans can somehow go 3-3 on that, maybe even, I'll be 3-2 on that, or maybe even, get a winning record in that, and actually grab this this thought process, this idea of the Pelicans that everybody has fallen in love with. That stretch in January will show us where this team is, what this team is about, and what this team is made of, because that is a tough stretch.
Yeah, it is. I'll stick on the same thing. A bunch of Western Conference games in a row. So in November, again, you got the back-to-back with Dallas. This is a homestand this time, and I'm saying it's going to be difficult. You got back-to-back with Dallas, then you got Denver, then you got that guy who dropped 34 the other day on Germany and Ant Edwards. Then you got back-to-back De'Aaron Fox, like you said, New Orleans killer in New Orleans. That is a tough stretch to get you through Thanksgiving. That's the week of Thanksgiving. So that is a tough stretch of games in a row. Again, you hope the Pelicans have some rhythm, some chemistry, because those are teams that, outside of Dallas, who knows what Dallas looks like. But those are teams that are well-built teams, like Denver and Minnesota and Sacramento. Like, everyone fits into a slot pretty well. So, like, again, you got to start playing some of your best basketball, I would say, earlier than most years. Like, most people look at, like, okay, right, heading into the All-Star break, like, you need to be, at a certain record. You need to be at a certain point where you guys are ready to get going for the playoffs. But this year, like, I don't think you can go on a 10-game losing streak and expect to make the play-in. Like, I don't think that is going to be a thing this year. You're going to find yourself looking at who's the next Wemby very quickly. So,
yeah, I think this. You are right, and I think that the Pelicans are really in a good situation in a sense of that. The media, the national media, and the attention on the Pelicans is still there, right? They still have Zion, they still have Brandon Ingram, but it seems as though, like, with the rise of Wemby, right, and this story with Dame and the things that's going on with him and James Harden and what's Joel Embiid is gonna get into, and now you see the Pelicans with only 6 nationally televised games and then 6 on NBA TV. It's kind of like the NBA is in a holding pattern as far as, like, how the Pelicans are viewed. And I think that's a good place to be, right? We've come into the season so many times, especially coming off that playoff run with Brandon Ingram, that playoff series with Brandon Ingram against the Suns. There was so, like you said, there's so many expectations about what is Zion going to look like? What are the Pelicans with all of this talent going to look like? It just seems as though the Pelicans are kind of easing into this season, right? That these pictures of Zion came up, what you're going to talk about, came out, and it's not the the all of the NBA related pages popping up as, oh, what is Zion going to do this season? It was just like, oh, look at Zion moving on to the next story. And I think that's a good place for the Pelicans to be, not under the radar, but kind of close to under the radar, where they can kind of hopefully get out to a really good start before all of the eyes start turning back to Zion, because we know what Zion is capable of. To get a couple wins and try to get into stack those wins early, because like you said, it's going to be tough sledding throughout the season.
Yeah, I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, because every other segment I see people are like, who my dark horse team is? The Pelicans. Like, every other segment, somebody is putting their your analogy to start the show is perfect. They're that Lamborghini. You might not have enough gas money to fill it up. You might not have insurance on it, but you know it's there. And if it ever comes out that it happens to work and you happen to have enough gas to keep it riding, you gonna pull it out. And I think that's what the media is waiting for the Pelicans. Like, hey, we don't want to double down on anything, but as soon as they start rolling, the narrative will be right back up, and here come the Pelicans, and so on and so forth. So you brought it up. You brought up the Zion pictures. I think the whole world, again, like, Zion could brush his teeth and there'll be 300 million people that watch it. Like the pictures come out of him and some of the other players. Jose with the stash. I see you. I don't know if that's going to make it to the season, but I see you, Jose with the stash.
It's all season, man. It's all season.
I see you. Jordan Hawk is working, living in the gym where he need to be. So you see those pictures come out, and immediately the world's like, Zion is back in shape. Zion's ready to kill it. Some people are like, his muscles are too big. I'm like, all right. I've never heard that before, but here we go with that and things like that. But I know it's hype season. I know it's off season. People are clinging to any type of NBA content that they possibly can. Every NBA player has a podcast right now. Were there anything that you took away from it, either from the pictures or just from the Zion's off season in general, because you've seen him around the facilities. You've seen him in interaction with both his teammates and the coaches, and the rumors about him working out at the Saints facility, all those. Those are all different things than years past of Zion off seasons, right? Like, he's Zion. He's been on the move. He's been, in this commercial, that commercial, some commercial like the Mountain Dew ones we should avoid, things like that. But like, outside of those things, he is really, really transformed into a different player this offseason. Like, you see him locked and loaded, working and in New Orleans all season long. Were there anything you took away from the pictures and his offseason that makes you feel confident that this year is going to be different than the years one?
Yeah, I understand the sentiment of, like, we've seen it before and things like that. But we haven't seen this version of Zion, right? We haven't really seen this. Oh, he's in New Orleans, on a random Tuesday or Wednesday getting to work in, right? And we've notoriously heard stories about how he's distant from his teammates and not around the guys, and in back in South Carolina with his stepfather and his little brother working out and things like that. Well, now you see him in the gym, and you recall back to CJ, talking about Zion, and he said, man, this is the most locked in he's been, right? And he's showing you that via his appearances, at Saints facilities and in the practice facility with his teammates, and things like that, right? And and even during the mishaps during the summer, I've always said that, like, all the jokes aside, all the baby mama stripper joints aside, he looked good. Like, he looked really good. Like, he looked like he was in great shape. And he looked fantastic. And that shows to another, a work ethic, a renewed focus, and things like that. And listen, everybody wants to see it on the floor, right? And it's not so much as seeing it on the floor, because I think everybody, can agree that this guy is phenomenal. He's one of one. There's nobody like him in the NBA currently. There's nobody ever been like him in the NBA. But, it's about longevity. It's about sustainability. It's about staying on the floor. It's about, being dominant for stretches, and, and not just, giving us a taste of it, a smidgen of it. And then, you don't catch it for the rest of the season because of whatever happened. So I think that's what it's about. And that's where some of the, we waiting to see it. We want to see it, some of those frustration tweets. But, the Zion and the Pelicans, they've been in a damned if you do, damned if you don't relationship with the media and the fans and things like that for a while. So I'm sure that they're used to it. But he looks good. He looks like a guy that is now, ready to lock in and give the Pelicans fans and the NBA, because the NBA is surely missing out on Zion in the playoffs. I can guarantee you that. But I think he looks focused. He looks ready to go in, and to see him in the practice facility and around the team is a very encouraging sign.
Yeah, I would say that the thing I took the most about the pictures, again, last summer we saw Zion working out underwater. Like, it's always something, right? Was the fact that he was working with, like, the resistance bands. And he talked about that in that interview with Gilbert Arenas, when he said, hey, LeBron got the blueprint, in terms of flexibility. It's not about, like, losing weight or becoming weaker or whatever it may be. It's more about flexibility and knowing how to do different things. I think what's being missed about this offseason is not only his training, and, again, I don't ever question his training. It's more so what happens after an injury. But in this scenario, like, he is not, like, again, he had a hamstring. It's not like he's coming off from a broken foot or whatever. So, like, he's been healthy. So, like, what is he adding to his game instead of recovering or rehabbing from an injury this summer? And I'm not necessarily looking for, like, again, we've talked about the floater and the three, catch and shoot three and all those things. I'm talking about like Tua, like, right? Like, Tua had a preseason game where he got hit hard, but he fell differently, right? It's Zion doing some of that, right? Like, instead of going to the ground and falling, like, straight on your back and missing 3 games, like, are you learning how to fall so that everything is not like everyone hold their breath every time you hit the ground and things like that? Like, are you doing some of those things, incorporating some of those things like Bron has learned to keep his body upright for all of these years? Those are the things that I'll be looking for in this time where, again, he's just getting to peak capacity, but it's more so what are the things, to your point, longevity, that's going to keep you upright? Not necessarily have you looking the best or dunking over people, but much more have you available in April, in May, stuff like that. So last thing, and we'll get out of here. So the FIBA warm-up games are done. The U.S. won all of their games. It was a little iffy there with Germany there in the first half, but they pulled it out. I think the narrative had been a little bit that BI hasn't really had a statement performance, right? Like he's again grown in ways that if you're a Pelicans fan or you watch the Pelicans, you're excited about, because those are the things and the aspects that are missing in his game from a consistency standpoint, right? Like rebounding and defending, play in and play out. Not sometimes, because BI has been known to lock down and sit down, like Devontae Graham said, from time to time, but not all the time, right? But he seemed pretty engaged in both of those things through every FIBA game so far. But he hasn't really been dominated from the offensive end like you expected him to do, right? You look at this roster, we talk about it, you say Anthony Edwards, who is absolutely grabbing the mic and running away with it right now and showing who he has on a universal stage, things like that. But BI hasn't necessarily done that from the scoring standpoint. Do you think, because of some of the things about, what Brian Windhorst has said, that Steve Kerr has assigned people to certain roles and that's what you're going to be for this team? Do you think it's more so Brandon Ingram thinking too much about it, like, hey, I'm a facilitator, get other people good shots, and not necessarily let me go get my own, other than the catch and shoot opportunities come to me? Do you think it's one of those things where that's kind of who he's going to be in this World Cup? Or do you think one of them statement games are coming where the U.S. needs a bucket and they find Brandon Xavier? Where do you kind of lie in that spectrum?
I think it's both. And I had a conversation on Twitter because I was tweeting during the game yesterday, the Germany game. And I think, we're seeing a lot of things with Team USA that are good and aren't so good. And I think the good thing is that they're winning. They're finding ways to kind of get through some of the adversity. And I think obviously the best thing is that Ant has shown that he is, here, right? He has arrived. But I think some of the issues that we're seeing is that, again, you talk about these roles that are on the team, and certain people have been empowered to do certain things, right? You see Ant is obviously empowered to be the scorer. Jalen Brunson has always been lauded as the team captain, as the guy who rallies the troops, and he kind of looks for that. And in the starting lineup, he's looking for his shot as well. And I think that what Brandon Ingram has evolved into, especially while playing with the Pelicans, is a guy that you have to kind of give him the ball and let him work, right? And you listen to these conversations about, Steve Kerr and Eric Spoelstra finding roles for Brandon Ingram, and they want Brandon Ingram to be the Kevin Durant and Carmelo Anthony. The issue is that Kevin Durant and Carmelo Anthony shoot way better than Brandon Ingram, from the three-point line. And so when you park Brandon Ingram on the three-point line, now listen, he's working on it. He looks a lot better catch and shoot, but that's not Brandon Ingram's game, right? Like that's something you want him to add, but it's not something you want him to turn into, right? You don't want
CJ becoming a point guard. I'm sorry, continue.
Well, yeah, things that should not have happened for 1,000, Alex. But yeah, and I think that's what you're seeing with BI. But it's a credit to him because, for a guy who is so used to having 17, 18, 20, 22, 23 shots a game, it's very easy to check out, right? To check out when you're not, even if you're playing for Team USA, but it's showing that he's buying into the team. And like you say, he's doing other things, competing on the defensive end, rebounding, playmaking, doing things like that. And I absolutely think that the game, listen, the tournament hasn't started. They're going to need Brandon Ingram, and Brandon Ingram is going to deliver. It's going to happen. It's going to deliver. But I think one of the things, I just think that Tyrese Halliburton would be a better starter with Mikal and Brandon Ingram with those guys, because he's more of a distributor, and Jalen Brunson is looking to get his offense going. And I think that Jalen Brunson has had a phenomenal warm-up game, but I think that Tyrese Halliburton could get Brandon Ingram going, could get Mikal Bridges going, could get Ant going, could get Jared Jackson going before he's looking to dominate, as opposed to like you're looking for Brandon Ingram to get a shot with 2 minutes gone in the first quarter, and then the next shot he takes is 6 minutes to go, 6 minutes to go in the first quarter, and then he's sitting, and then you bringing him back in, and that's just not his game, right? And he's not a guy that can get going from catching and shooting. He's a guy that gets going. You give him the ball a couple times. So either if Tyrese Halliburton to start, or like we talked about off the pod, let Brandon Ingram come off the bench and be the offensive hub for the second unit. But I think that is some of the things that you're seeing with Brandon Ingram. But I think we all can agree, no one is worried about can Brandon Ingram score. That is no one in the history of any time has ever said that. I just think that he's finding a little bit of difficulty in this role that they're asking him to be because he's not a natural shooter.
I agree. So that's all we got for you again. Again, the U.S. plays this weekend. The Saints have their final preseason game. We're rounding in the form. We're almost there. We're almost past the lull of summer. But what you got left for the people, Garrick, before we get out of here?
As always, you never know what people are going through, so give someone a smile today. Just want to take a quick second to shout out to my mom. Rest in peace. Coming up on the year anniversary of her passing. I miss you, Mom. Just wanted to put that out there in the atmosphere so she could hear me. But appreciate all the love and support that I've been getting from the DMs. I've seen them all, and I appreciate that love. So as always, follow myself at Garrick_Rattler on Twitter. Follow my brother at Raphael_Rattler. Follow the page at NO Basketball No E. Most importantly, subscribe to the page down low. We'll see you guys next time.
Yes, sir.
Hey,